Good afternoon. Welcome to Who's Tom and Dick? With your hosts, Martin Weavers and Patrick Mortimer. Good morning, Martin.
Good morning, Patrick.
And how the devil are you today?
I'm really good. I've just got so much good news to tell you.
You look as if you're bubbling with excitement.
I'm bubbling.
So we've all just mentioned that this is the last episode of Series 1.
Yeah.
Episode 42.
42. I can't believe how many we've made.
No, that's gone really quickly, really, isn't it?
And last week was like a rundown of all our favourites and that, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So, and then to think, well, this is going to be the end of it. Well, not the end of it, but the end of a series.
We have managed to do one every week since we started. So, and we haven't done any in-betweenies. So that means that this is the 42nd week of our podcasting career.
42 weeks of the year, I've seen you.
I know. We're sitting in Mark's kitchen as well, in his 1920s kitchen.
And Pat,
and he's
picked up the squeakiest chair possible.
And he's got a bit of a squeaky chair, so it's not me.
It's the 1950s kitchen.
First. Anyway, I dare say the podcast is going to be taken up mainly today by your news and our update on our health. Yeah, which seems a good subject to discuss.
I think the very, very first episode that we did, we started and we told everybody about our health, didn't we?
Well, we filled them in on a brief bio of what we've got.
And obviously we've gained listeners along the way.
Yeah.
So I think we need to possibly, recap it and then and then say how we are now. And then we can move on to the next series.
To a bright new series.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
let's start. Last week, we finished on the point that you were going for a blood test, and was it an MRI scan?
Yeah, I had a scan as well. Yeah. What you do, you go for for several blood tests.
Yeah.
That go for different things. I don't know why they can't get the same, use the same blood and pick out all the different bits. But anyway, several of those and this MRI scan, and then you just have a little bit of an anxious wait. But I was quite confident.
Quietly confident.
Yeah, quietly confident. But I didn't want to seem overconfident because, with this kind of thing, cancer, it can knock you down just like that. So I sort of went in, fingers crossed a bit.
Apprehensive.
Yeah, fingers crossed a bit.
But you don't want to tempt fate or anything, do you?
No, because everyone keeps saying, oh, you look really well.
Yeah.
And, I feel I mean, compared to how I was, God, I feel well.
Do you think people say you look really well because they want you to feel as if you look really well sometimes?
No, I think they say you look well because I'm fat now.
back to normal, yeah. Back to your normal weight is what they want to say. Right, okay. No, because I sometimes
people do say that to people. Oh, you look well, but they don't ever say, oh, you've put on a bit of weight.
I've said it to people, and not that I've not meant it, but it just comes out naturally sometimes.
Yeah.
You see someone, oh, you look well, as just like saying hello.
Yeah.
Well,
it's part of your greeting, isn't it?
It is, and especially when somebody's been ill. Because sometimes I look at people and they don't look any different, really.
Yeah, I know. I'm the same.
9 times out of 10, you can tell when they're ill.
Yeah.
But most of the time, they don't look any different to me. Yeah. In fact, I have struggle recognising
Or people say, do you notice I've lost a bit of weight? And I think, I don't actually know. Oh, yeah. So if I say that to you who's listening, you know what.
I know. But anyway, so, you went into the hospital for your results.
Yeah, and we had, I think the appointment was about 10 to 11, and he was running behind, of course, wasn't he? Because, you're anxious and waiting.
Yeah.
But anyway, I went in there, and he always seems to have a spring in his step when he's got some news for me.
Is this Dr. P?
Dr. P, my oncologist. Yeah. And sure enough, we sat down, and he said, well, it's good news. So anyway, as we're talking.
So did he sit down? He obviously, you and Linny went.
Yeah.
And you said, hello, Dr. Patterson. And then did he say, we've got some good news? Or did he?
No. What he does, he offers me the seat, offers Linny the seat.
Yeah.
And then he always asks me how I am.
Right.
That's the first. He always asks me that.
Yeah.
And of course, that's when I say I feel really good, and I hope the reports have all come back good. Mm-hmm. And we probably say that every time, but and then that's when he comes in with his little bit and tells me yes. And this time it was the best news I could have ever had. It wasn't just that the loratinib has sort of eaten away at the cancer like it has been. He actually said, "You're cancer free."
Really?
Yeah. So I'm actually free of cancer. I've got no cancer in my body. Right. And I find that unbelievable.
So
my body is the same as your body. No cancer in it, you know?
He said that you're free from cancer, but in your very early days, I remember you said his words were, "Oh, you'll never cure this cancer."
Yeah, well, he said that
you'll never be free of this cancer.
Yeah. Well, I'm still, this is it. I'm cancer free, but I still have stage 4 cancer.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems strange. And I'll never get stage 3.
Yeah.
So
if you were to stop taking loratinib, would it come back, did he say?
He didn't say it, but I have stopped at various times when I was in hospital. Well, no, I hadn't started it in hospital last year. When I broke my toe, I stopped for a month, and it started to grow a little bit then. In fact, I was talking to Linny about this because I'm on 3 tablets, and that seems to be, eating everything away. Mm-hmm. I just hope they don't say, "Oh, should we try and, drop your dose a little bit?" Because at the moment, I'll fight like hell to keep at the dose I am.
So, did you ask the question: is loratinib keeping it at bay, or has it eradicated it altogether? Or did he say you've got to take loratinib for the rest of your life?
I've always got to take, for the rest of my life. But He told me it's the drug doing it.
Yeah, of course.
He'd got a screen, and he got all these results up for me. Mm-hmm. Bearing in mind, I should just say that when we got told that it's cancer free, Linny cried her eyes out and couldn't remember some of the stuff he said to me, and I had to ring up the next day to confirm what he'd said, that I was cancer free.
This is where you should have taken our new device in and mic'd him up, because you could actually listen to the conversation again when you got home, couldn't you?
Yeah, that's true.
Or you could have put your phone on record.
Yeah.
Perhaps that's what you should do, because
Are you allowed to record a conversation?
Well, for your benefit.
Because I forget things.
Well, exactly. Well, when I was taking Peter in, my friend who had cancer, he was taking his, because I didn't go in to see his oncologist with him, and he was taking his phone in to record the conversation because his brain was a bit woolly because he was under so many drugs. Yeah. That he had to come back and listen to it several times to take it all in.
Really?
They allowed him to do that, so I wondered whether they'd allow you to do the same, because
I've never even thought of it.
Especially when you're excited like that, you sort of, you're welled up in the
Well, it's funny because when I got told I'd got cancer, I was talking to the bloke all the time, and Linny was, just devastated. So she probably didn't hear everything then. And it's really hard because, we've had the same reaction for the bad news as well as what we got for the good news.
Yeah.
I kept talking to the doctor, and Linny was in tears, bless her. So it was the same reaction for, "Sorry, you got cancer. Oh, you're cancer free." So, so he went on to, as I say, talk about saying it's definitely the loratinib that's doing it, and he's really pleased, and he did tell me that. All these oncologists like himself, they go to seminars and things like this, and sometimes they can't go. So other oncologists on their little group share what happened at the conference, and I remember him telling me that 0.6 people 10 years ago used to survive on the drugs that were available at the time.
Right.
Now loratinib is out, 8% of people, out of not 8, so 8 out of 10 people are surviving.
Oh,
That's a hell of a
that is a jump,
change. I mean, he showed me back to 5 years because the records weren't on the screen, but I've got a picture of it.
We have to remember, though, that loratinib is only suitable for certain lung cancers, isn't it? As we said before, there's 18 types of lung cancer.
Well, my friend, I saw her the other night, and her husband, Dave, has got it. Dave is going to come on our show in a future episode.
Oh, right. Okay,
so,
cool.
And I told them about it, but I actually pointed that out, to them that is specifically for my lung cancer.
Yeah.
So it's not as if we can just sort of hand it out willy-nilly.
That would be interesting to find out the 18 lung cancers that there are and what lung cancers are more treatable than others, wouldn't it? In a way, on almost like a scale of 1 to 10.
I think if you had lung cancer, you wouldn't want to know.
No.
Because if you knew that, the lung cancer you was on you've got 3 months, or the one I was on, you've got possibly 2 to 7 years.
Yeah.
I think you perhaps wouldn't want to know that. Well, personally, from someone who's got it.
You say that, but some people might, because we're all different.
Oh, yeah.
And if that information was available, they could either choose to have it or not have it.
That's true, yeah. Yeah. I don't think I would have chosen to. He told me, what life expectancy is on loratinib, and I was pleased to get years rather than months, and...
So this is obviously your highest point.
With my cancer.
With your cancer today.
Yeah.
Or when you received that news, I don't suppose you took it in. Did you feel, when you got the news, did you feel exhausted after the news?
Yeah, you do. Yeah,
because I've heard a lot of people feel relieved once they've rung the bell and things like that. And that's almost like a weight off their shoulders.
Yeah, I didn't get to ring a bell.
No.
But as we know through the interview, Dr. Patterson's ward doesn't ring a bell. So
just before I go into the next question, was that an ice cream van I heard?
No, that was my wife's alarm.
Oh, right.
To tell us half an hour ready to get ready for work.
I was going to get a 99 there from her.
If that was an ice cream van, you wouldn't see me sitting here. You know that.
I did think it's a bit early. But anyway, so you got the good news.
Yeah.
And that's the height of or the peak, shall we say, of your cancer travels.
Yeah.
So what was the low? Was it receiving the news, or was it treatment, or did you have a really big low during treatment?
I had lows during the treatments.
Can you identify which was your lowest of low points?
Definitely, 100%. I can tell you that.
Where's that?
It was last Christmas when I had constant diarrhea.
Right.
That wasn't even to do with cancer.
Yeah.
It was because I was on so many steroids and different drugs. Then it caused this thing in my stomach. I can never remember the name of it. Corrie, what's the name of that? That's right. It's called C. diff.
Right. That's good that you remembered it.
I know. And it's C. difficile, or the C stands for something, and the diff is difficile.
Right.
And it caused me to just have diarrhea constantly. It ruined my life.
Right.
To the fact that I just couldn't go anywhere. And do you remember we did the episode about men's pads and all things like that? That's why I had to, wear the pads. And I'm not ashamed to say I wore them. In fact, this weekend, I've just thrown out a load of the pads that we kept some under the bed. Not because I was that bad, but just in case it came back again.
That's good for a romantic evening, though.
I know.
My pads are under the bed. In case of emergency.
I didn't actually know they were under the bed. No, Corrie put them under there.
You weren't taking any risks then.
That's right. So we're finally thrown them away.
Yeah.
Because we said, they're not that dear. If it ever did flare up again, we would buy some more. It's hard to describe, that you've got no life.
And how long did this go on for?
Months.
Oh, did it?
Yeah. Don't you remember?
I do remember.
You and me were going to go to Arsenal.
Yeah.
and that's appropriate.
It is, yeah.
Arsenal, Crystal Palace, and I couldn't travel because I wouldn't know when I need to go to the loo.
Yeah.
And if I needed to go to the loo, I actually couldn't stop. That's how bad. That's why I had to wear the pads.
Was that the onset when you come to that Ipswich game with me?
Yeah, that was probably the start. That was.
Yeah.
And I was still having it. That was in August, the second game of the season.
Yeah.
I was still having this in December.
Right.
And it was only one of the nurses that said, should we do a blood test? Should we do a test on it for C. difficile? And then they done this test. And then they said, you've got C. difficile. So
right.
It was only because that nurse mentioned it. They put me, funny enough, if you have too many antibiotics, that's what happens to your stomach.
Yeah.
But what they did to cure it, they gave me antibiotics.
Oh, God. Were you on antibiotics all the time then, were you?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I thought you were, or is that penicillin? What's the one? Yeah, it is antibiotics that you can get immune to if you have too much, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely, yeah. So, I've had several different ones over the, because if you remember, I was going through a period where I kept going in hospital at that time. And of course they would give me tablets I had, the collapsed lung, the sepsis and pneumonia. Yeah. So all those tablets they were giving me, for it, that's what the end result was. But you'd have thought a hospital would have probably known that, but anyway.
You would have thought so, but they only see like snippets of you, don't they?
Yeah.
I mean, they'll see you.
I'm certainly not knocking this hospital by any means, because they have been fantastic.
Well, you're living with it constantly, day after day after day. You go into the hospital for, a checkup and mention it, and that's the first time they know of it, and then they forget about it, and then you go back again and mention it. Whereas with you, it's there constantly, isn't it? So
I know.
I think sometimes when you get things like that, you just have to keep banging on the door.
But as I said, I even draining my lungs and everything else I've gone through, the chemotherapy.
So the initial diagnosis wasn't the lowest point then? I don't suppose you could take it all in.
I think the diarrhea was the lowest point of the whole lot.
The lowest point. Right.
Yeah. It was horrible.
Excuse the chair again.
Yeah. Keep still.
A strange really how you see the low points, isn't it? Because I don't suppose you could take it all in when you got the diagnosis. It's only when you get home that you start to take it all in.
Well, we drove along the road and stopped and just, when we first got the diagnosis, and we stopped at a petrol station in the court there and then just hugged each other and cried our eyes out. That's when I first got the diagnosis.
Yeah.
And that's when I had to pluck up the courage to tell the kids. I don't know why I had to pluck up courage, funny enough, but, because it's a thing that I've got. I can't change.
No, nobody's fault.
No, and yet you do have to pluck up courage to do it.
There must be sort of mixed emotions going through your head, or I don't want to seem as if I'm craving attention or as one thing, or I don't want to have them worrying as another thing.
Yeah, well, you knew right from the start.
Yeah.
But there's lots of people who didn't, and I still believe that a lot of people, if I hadn't told them, probably wouldn't even know the way I've gone through, because they haven't seen me every single day. If they'd seen me through those months when I had the diarrhea, for instance, they might notice a difference in me. I certainly lost weight then, but then once that had gone and the tablets kicked in, and the donuts before you say it.
Yeah.
No, I started to put the weight on, and then it's this loratinib has suddenly eaten away at my cancer.
Yeah.
And they all said you need a few quid. So my wife was just producing a photograph of me when I had my.
Was that you?
Yeah. Yeah. Didn't you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's when I had the chemo, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was another. But as I said, there's been several stages of development during this path.
Yeah, well, this isn't the first drug that you've taken to fight the cancer, is it? You had a couple before, didn't you?
Yeah,
it didn't work.
Yeah, the first one that affected my heart rate. It slowed it right down, and so I had the little monitors.
Yeah, ECG.
ECG.
Yeah,
that's it. Yeah, and so I had that, and that showed that tablet was slowing my heart right down. So he took me off of that. First of all, I think he lowered the doses.
Yeah.
Because top one was probably still didn't work. It's still too high. And then he tried another one, and that messed around with my liver.
Right. Yeah.
And it seemed I couldn't have any tablets until my liver came down. Now, I had the tablets and my liver shot up. I know the number was 200, but I can't remember what your liver should come down to. But I know it took a couple of weeks to go up.
Yeah.
It took months to come down. I always remember that,
right,
because I had to wait so long before I could go on to something else.
Yeah.
And then the something else was the chemotherapy, which is another story.
The chemotherapy was tablet form, wasn't it?
Initially. And then I went in for 4 bouts of it.
What, injection based?
Yeah, drip. Yeah,
oh,
and yeah, I had four lots of that in hospital. And I remember that the first lot I had, they said, we're hitting you hard with this. I said, what do you mean by that? They said, we don't normally give this amount of drugs to somebody. So, I thought, now, is it because my cancer is really bad?
Yeah.
What I found out was, because I'm probably physically fitter than a lot of people who have had cancer, he gave me it hard, they prescribed it to me, really hard. I remember we went round to friends, and Linny had just come out. Linny had to go into hospital for an operation the same time that I had my first bout.
Yeah.
And our friends had invited us round for the weekend, and we were like hospital patient, and she was waiting on us hand and foot, Claire was, and it was really good.
Yeah, it's quite interesting, because I got a question this week from Hassana Dallas.
Yeah.
And she says, can a lung cancer patient who has a weak body do chemotherapy? So in a way, what they're saying to you is, because you're fairly physically fit, not that you'd think of it by looking at you, but because you're physically fit, they can give you a stronger dose. So I guess that can work in reverse. So if you are a little frail or your body is weak, then they can probably give it to you in a lesser dose.
Yeah.
So that answers that question, really, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, as we always say, ask their doctor what they think,
exactly.
really. But from my experience, all I can talk is my experience.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what they said. Oh, with the nurse, she's fitting all up the drip and all that. There was 4 bottles hanging from the stand. And she said, oh, we're hitting you hard. And that puzzled me, that did. And then when she came back, I said, what do you mean? And that's when she said, we don't normally give this much to a cancer patient.
Right.
Patient.
Yeah. One of those bottles wasn't Guinness, was it?
Yeah. Well, one was covered up. It could have been. It was black. Because one of them mustn't get the sunlight.
Right.
One of the things in there. So, and then everywhere you went in that room, it said, even like going to the toilet,
How'd you go to the toilet hooked up to 4 bottles of this stuff?
Was in your arm.
Yeah, but if you go to the toilet, what happens to the bottles?
They're on a stand.
And you wheel them
on
around.
Wheels.
Oh,
yeah.
really?
Yeah, you're like a Dalek.
Crikey. Is that stand that these bottles are on low enough to go through a door?
Yes.
I was going to say.
Well, I think so.
I just imagine you going to the toilet and smashing the bottles against the door frame or something.
Yeah, it's low enough, and you've got a flexible lead coming from each thing that goes into a cannula in your arm, and they're all long enough. You have to think about it, because if you need to go to the toilet and you're right-handed, then there's no point having that, when you have to wipe yourself or anything like that. So that becomes hard. So
you have to think about it. I suppose you get an option of what hand you want to put it in.
You do, yeah.
So you automatically thought, I'll have it in my left.
I still, to this day, for my blood tests, they say, which arm do you prefer? And I say, well, they emptied that arm last time. I said, you better do this one this time. So,
well, I was thinking about your toilet duties.
Yeah.
You'd always go for your less,
Yeah.
You know what I'm trying to say?
I do know what you're trying to say, yeah. So, you do have to think about it.
Go to the right arm so you can still,
Yeah, so then I went,
Nurse, need some help in the loo.
Yeah, that's right. And then you have to, think about that. So I've gone from that, the tablet form.
Yeah.
And then I've gone on to 4 bouts of proper chemotherapy. That's when my hair fell out.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I thought I'm going to soon tell people, and don't look at my hair and say you haven't got any anyway. Well, I didn't have. I
was just going to say it was hair singular. That's when the hair fell out.
The hair fell out. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that came out, and then I had 2 bouts of immunotherapy.
That's amazing how you remember that.
It just comes to me, you know. And the immunotherapy, I didn't know what was happening with that, if it was working or not.
Yeah.
But suddenly they stopped me on the immunotherapy, and I became ill just after that with a chest infection.
Right.
And that's when I had those several chest infections last year. And I never, ever went back on immunotherapy.
No.
Because Dr. P then said in hospital, do you fancy trying this new drug? And then I went on to the lorlatinib, and I've not looked back.
Excellent.
But,
So it's good that you went through all these heartaches, really, because you might not ever have gotten to lorlatinib if you hadn't.
Well, that's right. But then you got to remember way back, I also had the little minor operation where I had to have a pipe put into me and put into my lungs. And when I had fluid on my lungs,
Yeah.
that was horrible. That was. They actually stuck a needle straight through my body and into my lung.
Yeah.
And then drained it all, and all it came out like a pina colada. It really did come out. I actually got a photograph of pina colada and compared it, and you
do some weird things, you do, man.
Yeah, I know. It was all the pina coladas in the past I drank.
Did you do a selfie with it by any chance?
I did.
Did you?
Yeah. But the thing was, I wasn't telling people then what I'd got cancer. But I think what I might do now is show people the journey that I've sort of been along.
You could do a book, or you could do some sort of story about it, couldn't you? Because funnily enough, that brings me on to another subject.
Right.
And somebody was mentioning on TV an interesting book called Me and My Shadow. And believe it or not, this was written by a cancer patient.
Right.
And it's all about his author's personal journey of resilience and triumph over cancer. So somebody who went through the whole shooting match and come out the other side. Yeah. Believe it or not, his name is John Walker Patterson.
Ah.
So not just interesting that relates to your oncologist, but apparently that's an interesting book to read, and it's called Me and My Shadow by John Walker Patterson.
Well, that would be the shadows on the lung, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
In the cancer. Yeah. I've do you know what? I've never read hardly anything about cancer.
No.
I've just gone on my own sort of little journey, and here it's where it's taken me, you know, and goodness knows where it's going to take me for the future. All I really, really would say is I hope I last several years on this earth for my wife and children.
Does that mean that you've got to keep having regular checkups?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And how frequently?
But that's funny. That's good now, because instead of every 4 weeks, this next one is 6 weeks.
Right.
And that's only ever happened once. And that was when I was, before I went in hospital.
Yeah.
And the what I was on then was starting to do something, because all throughout this, I've always seen the scans. And, you know, and we look at them from the head going through your body down to your feet.
Yeah.
That's the way the scanners look. So I see, all around the lung. And it's amazing, Pat, the amount of cancer that was around my lung. And then, because I haven't shown you those pictures.
Yeah.
So I've got some with it right around it. And then I think you put some on the website where it showed partially, you know, where it went across, which seemed to move, because at first it was hanging around the lung.
Right.
And which is why they wouldn't operate. Yeah. Because I said, can you operate and take the lung out? And they said, no, it's in the lining of the lung. And if I start to do that, it'll spread to different places. So it's just a matter of, you know, I don't know, all these things were trial and error, and they brought me to where I am, and I feel good at the moment.
Do they give you an update on your immune system, where that sits now? I would
love to know that.
You were quite susceptible during your treatment to catching anything, really, weren't you?
I was.
And has your immune system actually recovered as well as, your lung getting better?
Perhaps I should have asked that.
That's another question.
That'll be the one to ask, I think.
Yeah. You ought to make a list of these questions next time you go in.
Yeah.
You'll then be ready.
Yeah. We normally do make a list of questions if we want, but I don't know why I didn't ask that one. But anyway, it is very important as well. Because, I have been, wary of people, so to speak.
It was really interesting that story, when you first went in, the future looked very bleak. And here you are sitting here today, 2 years later?
Yeah.
So, yes, it's amazing, really, Martin. That's really good news, and we couldn't hope for anything more.
I know.
Well, the journey is part of the podcast, really, isn't it?
Which started at my lowest when you said, let's do it.
Yeah.
And I said, yeah.
So the podcast started at your lowest and it's come right through to, should we call it the peak of your
if I stayed like this for the rest of my life, yes, I can't do certain things. I can't do my football, which I love. But hey-ho, you got to give some things up.
It'd be interesting to know if you could get some of your fitness levels back.
Yeah.
Your lung has sort of recovered.
Well, do you know what? It's funny you should say that, because I thought about trying to do chair exercises.
Right.
To start with.
What's a chair exercise?
Haven't you heard about that? It's all on Facebook.
Sitting in a chair.
You sit in a chair, and you just do exercises. You move your knee up to your, not to your chin, because you won't get it that far. Knee chinwards. And then the other way, you can't reach. Pat's trying here. And then the other thing is you can have dumbbells and you put them down by your side. Yeah. And you're like this.
Oh, so gentle exercise.
Yes, that's a gentle exercise. And I thought, well, I'm not going to run a marathon to start with.
No.
So I thought I might just try that.
If the cancer has shrunk from your lung and your immune system has recovered, not we know that yet, because you haven't asked that question, then there shouldn't be any reason why you shouldn't be able to get a little bit fitter.
I know.
And lose a little bit of weight if you wanted to. I'm not suggesting that you should.
Thank you.
No, I'm not. I know we keep mentioning it. But
but not we. You.
But the trouble is with the statins, as we all know, is not only do they help us lose our memory sometimes, they also give you an appetite, don't they?
That's another story, the statins.
Yeah.
I've changed them.
Oh, no, have you?
Yeah. We'll talk about that another time.
We'll talk about that. Because we are at the end of this podcast, believe it.
Blimey.
Have you got a joke of the week for this week?
I have got a joke of the week.
Well, we haven't had one for such a long time.
I know. And I do want to wish Hazel Wood, who's one of our regular visitors, one of our regular listeners, a speedy recovery. She's just had an operation. I won't tell the whole world what she's had, but Hazel, we love you and we thank you for listening to us.
Yes, well done, Hazel. All the best.
And a speedy recovery. And my joke of the week
is...
I've put joke of the wood down here. I don't know why. Joke of the wood. I read that by law that you have to turn your headlights on when it's raining in Sweden.
I haven't got the foggiest what you're talking about.
Really?
You're going to do the joke now?
That is it.
Is it? Yeah. If anybody can work that joke out, perhaps you can write in on a postcard or even email me.
So you're in England, right?
Yeah.
And it says you have to turn your lights on when it's raining in Sweden.
Oh, God.
I didn't say it's a good joke.
We're ending on that. You do realise this is series 1, episode 42, the last episode.
I know. I've ended on a
series
high.
Do you know what? Well, you've reached your peak with your cancer, and you've hit a low with your jokes. But I'd rather have it that way around, wouldn't you?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Anyway, well done, Martin. We're glad to hear you're making good progress.
Yeah.
And all the best.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, everybody, for listening.
Yeah, once again.
And I hope you've enjoyed Series 1. We've got a few twists and turns to add in Series 2, and we've got some great guests arriving for Series 2.
Yeah.
And one particular we're interviewing later this month. So that should be very interesting.
It will be.
But thanks for sticking with us.
Thank you very much, everybody, all over the world.
We'll see you next week.
Yes.
Series 2.
Yep. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.